I'm Leanne Harris, CEO for Keller Williams Portland Central. And today on Getting to Know Your Realtor, we have Debbe Crawford. Hi, Debbie. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
So I know that we've got all of our questions lined out. The listeners definitely know that I ask the same questions over and over, and yet we get these vastly different responses. And so I think what is important for our listeners to know today is that I actually know you at a pretty deep level, and that's what we were talking about before. You're very passionate about a lot of the things that I'm passionate about in my 501c3, giving back to our community, helping people, and you're a phenomenal realtor. You doubled your business during the pandemic, which is wow. I mean, we talked about that yesterday on our team meeting. And I think that you are an inspiration to so many people. You're chomping at the heels of being the number one female salesperson in our organization. So I know you're just right on the heels of that, right behind Emily. We'll knock her down. So tell us your journey in real estate.
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. I wish I would have gotten into it a long time ago, but I had a life change about 6 years ago where, as you know, my husband passed away from suicide. So that's something that, we have in common as far as being true to our hearts. And I kind of checked out when that happened. I had, I had 4 businesses going on at the time, and I just didn't care anymore. I just checked out and kind of hid out. And short story is that I sold or lost or got rid of them, depending on which one it was. And again, was just kind of hiding out, and had a friend that's like, Debbie, you got to do something. You got to get up, And so he introduced me to some investors, of which I started staging for. It was great. I could do it by myself. I could do it at midnight. I could cry, drink, whatever I needed to do to cope at the time.
I don't know if you should drink picture though.
Yeah.
I broke my foot doing that this year. I told you in October I'm back in the boot because I'm trying to move furniture while drinking. I don't think it's not good. Okay, keep going.
Not a good idea. Not a good
look.
But I realized really quickly I was on the wrong side of the transaction. I was like, I'm making this over here, and I could be making this over here,
Yeah.
And I was realizing and remembering how much I like people and how social that I really am, and how I needed that connection in my life again.
Yeah.
And so I had another friend that was in real estate, and she had recently done a transaction with actually Kama, and she was looking for someone at the time, and my girlfriend worked at Hassan actually, and she's like, you got to go to Keller Williams. They have all the stuff for the new agents. Their training program is phenomenal. It's where you got to go. So she connected us, and here I am.
That's really cool. I love that. Yeah, I love your staging business is so amazing. I love watching the final product after you take a picture of a house for one of your clients. It looks so good. So what 3 nuggets do you want your clients to know about, or other real estate agents to know about from Debbe Crawford?
I think as far as my clients go, I think, I want them to know how important it is that I connect with them, like that I'm listening to what they're saying. I feel like, going through chapters in life, whether it's having kids, getting married, whether it's divorce, the loss of a loved one. I think as you go through those chapters, life brings us to different places. And I think, it's so important to listen to our clients and just be like, what is their next chapter? Why are they here? Why are they selling? Why are they buying? And, either be excited for them, or, sometimes you're just listening, but connecting with them and just really listening to what they have to say.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing you say too is it's important for your clients to tell you those things in their life because of course, you're a confidential person. You don't share stuff about your clients, and you are a person that's gone through so many experiences. And I think, quite frankly, a lot of people that are listing, a lot of people that are buying homes, they feel like they're supposed to, or they they don't think that their real estate agent should know those kind of things. We're going through a divorce. That's why we're selling our house. No, talk about it. And the reason why we want to talk about it is so that everybody gets taken care of during the process. And if you lose a loved one, that's important to talk about because emotions can get high. And you're a person that's gone through that before. And you can talk about those things to make sure that you manage the emotions, you manage the energy during the transaction as well as the negotiation, because I think that you have to bring both pieces together.
You do. I mean, no one wins if everybody doesn't win, right? And it's like, the more that I know, the more that, I have in front of me, the more information, the better equipped I am to get us to the finish line.
For sure. For sure. What other nuggets?
Communication. I'm really big on communication. I don't like to sweep things under the rug or pretend that they're not happening. Like, again, I think they kind of go hand in hand. It's like, the more that I can know, I mean, if something, I think sometimes we only want to do the warm and fuzzy side of real estate, and it isn't always warm and fuzzy. We have obstacles that we have to get through sometimes, and just setting expectations.
I would say, even on a percentage wise, I would say 80% of them are not warm and fuzzy. And not because we don't want them to be, because it is, I think at the heart of it, it's a contract and it's a transaction, and transactions don't have feelings. And so that feels cold. And, and that's where you do a really good job of making sure that you can manage, the warm and fuzzy plus the contractual side.
Right.
Okay. What's your third nugget?
Commitment. I think my commitment is just, it runs so deep. I mean, from my clients to my team, those that I work with, and or that work for me, or, I mean, my commitment is just so deep. Like, if I'm working with someone, whether they're a client, whether they're a team member, if it's you, I mean, whoever it is, if they're not succeeding, I take it so personally. You know what I mean? I'm not here to not get to the finish line on a transaction. I'm not here to, bring on team members and not see them meet their goals. You know what I mean? It's like, tell me what it is, that, where do you want to be? Why? And let's do this. Like, I'll help you get there.
Yeah. Your team has the same heart that you have for the client. So regardless of who they're working for in your team, and I think it's really important for listeners to know that you've never once called me and said, I want to make more money next year, Leanne, can you help me? Never, not once. Like, that's not the focus of what you do every day. Your focus is, okay, Leanne, I want to help more people in their careers for them to achieve at a higher level. How do I do this? How do I attract somebody that's like-minded like me? And then you've also talked to me about, okay, how do I help more people wanting to list their house this year? How do I knock a listing out of the park? And how do I make sure that client is taken care of? And not because you're not doing it already. Obviously, your sales speak for themselves. At nearly $40 million in real estate sales last year, you don't need help on how to acquire more clients. What you want to do is you want to knock it out of the park even further for them. And that's the part where I'm just like, wow, that is really cool. I've never once heard you talk about anything other than bettering somebody's life when you've gotten in front of them. I'm going to go back to something that you said earlier. You said we have in common the foundational piece of my 501c3, which is suicide prevention, which is a difficult topic for a lot of people to hear. And yet what you and I have also discussed is that at the baseline of it, it is working on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, whether that be food, clothing, shelter, which is our houses, and a sense of community. And when we're working on those things, we can actually impact people's lives and really change their world. And so we know that a lot of people that get to a place of isolation or desperation or depressed is that something inside their basic human needs are not being met. And I think that that's why you take housing so personally as well. Mm-hmm. It's a basic human need. And you give back a lot to charity. You've been a regular donor for that charity, and you give back to your community quite a bit. Do you want to talk about community involvement?
Yeah. I do a lot, with suicide prevention. Obviously, it speaks to me a lot. And I do a lot with my family around just giving back. I mean, we do simple things like whether it's volunteering at a food pantry or every Thanksgiving we had lived in Sherwood prior, which I would consider, a suburb, and we decided we needed a change. So we moved to inner city after the death of my husband. And one thing that we saw was the homeless community. I mean, it was all around us. It was, very vivid. It was something that we hadn't really experienced before, even though we were only 20 miles away.
Right.
And so every year, my son, who's 11, and he's been doing it for about 5 years, he just something simple where we put together these bags with socks and sandwiches and chips, and we go around and we deliver them and we take them around. And I think it's not so much, the extent or how many people you touch, it's your heart, and just instilling that into our children and our families. It's what can he do to give back? What can we do at whatever level we're at, whether it's giving $10 of every check we make, or it's, going and volunteering somewhere. It's just the impact, whether it's one person or 10 or 20 or thousands. I find that the greatest satisfaction is the satisfaction that it gives myself.
Yeah, it's true. Anytime that you're in a place where you might be feeling low, go help somebody else. And it does, it kind of lifts you up for sure. If you were going to write a book, what would it be about?
I think from a business perspective or for clients or something like that, it would be about mindset. I really, people ask me often, how have you been so successful in such a short amount of time? And I really think it is my mindset. I mean, if I want something, I have very few excuses. You know what I mean? My mind is here. And, I hear a lot about, well,
as to that, because I get a lot of emails from you at the crack of dawn, like it's still dark outside, and also in the middle of the night, sometimes at 3 a.m. Like when you are on one, you are like a dog on a bone. You are like, nope, I want to know the answer and I'm moving my life forward. And I'm like, wow, okay, we're going.
Right. I know. And I don't do excuses very well. It's like, hey, the line starts back there. We all got them. We all got a pass. We all got this. We've got, an ex-husband. We've got shitty parents. We've got, excuse my French, but we all got it, so get in line. It's your mindset. It's like, where do you want to be? How bad do you want it? What's your why?
I had somebody, okay, it was Cody. I'm just going to bust Cody out on these.
I love it.
I'm just going to talk trash about him because he never watches this far because his ADD kicks in. So I'll just talk about Cody Gibson. So what he said to me one time after I had set a goal, I swear to God, it was like 3 years in a row. He goes, why don't you just have a funeral for it? You don't really even want it. And I was like, I think you're right, actually. It was so empowering to have somebody push back on me and say, stop your garbage talk and stop setting these goals that you're unwilling to actually do the work to get there. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. And I'm such a learning-based person, but man, that really hit me hard. And I've been with Keller Williams 10 years this next month. And it's like, wow, I probably should have a funeral for that goal or come up with a new goal or decide I actually like my life the way that it is.
Totally.
And so I was
doing that's okay too.
Else. Exactly.
That's okay.
Yeah.
What's not okay is just complaining about it, right?
Totally. Do goals for yourself to move yourself forward. Agreed.
Absolutely.
All right.
I think if it was going to be from a personal note, I would say it would be something along the lines of power of forgiveness. Mm-hmm. I think we use that as an excuse a lot, and I totally have. Whether, again, going back to whether it's forgiving your parents for the horrible upbringing that you had or didn't have, forgiving your ex-husband, or forgiving, in my case, someone for taking their life, what was left behind. It's but even more importantly, it's like forgiving yourself. Just stop, man. Just, forgive, because and you're going to have to keep doing it. We're constantly going to have to be forgiving because no one's perfect. Someone's always going to be hurting us, and it's like the power of forgiveness, whether it's another person or yourself, sets you free to get to that mindset, I think, that you need
totally
to attain the goals that you want. And it took me a long, long time to let go of things. And it definitely got in my way.
It's funny to me because you really have grown as a professional since the day that I met you too. Although I've always I liked you from the second that I met you, and I think that humans just do that, right? It's like you're just kind of your tribe attracts your tribe. But it reminded me of something when you were saying that. I'm not sure how the correlation came in my head, and maybe I'll get there as I say it out loud, but you do a good job of giving expectations to your clients too. And when you were saying like you need to be that forgiving person during transactions, there can be a lot of misunderstandings. I mean, I don't care what kind of transaction it is. This podcast is called Getting to Know Your Realtor, but at the end of the day, you could reframe it and say, getting to know your contractor, getting to know your dentist, getting to know your doctor, getting to know whatever. Like at the end of the day, I think what happens is expectations are laid out and they're not fulfilled or they're not promised. And that's why people become disgruntled. But what you do a good job of saying is, hey, by the way, this is what's going to happen. This is when it's going to happen. And oh, by the way, it's going to be a train wreck. You're probably going to get mad at point A, point B, and maybe it's C. And then you're going to call me and this is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to resolve it. And you do such a good job of doing that, that I never in any of the history of being with you have had, our fabulous principal broker, Amy Loeb, come back and say, Debbie's got a problem on a transaction. Like it doesn't happen. And the reason why is because you manage the expectations from the beginning, which is maybe that piece of you. And maybe that's why I kind of came with it is like the forgiveness. You're like, I'm going to get this person so they don't even need to get into a place where they have to forgive me.
Right. Well, I try. I'm sure it's happened, but I definitely try. And that word expectations it's such a powerful word, and when you set that, whether it's for your children, your clients, your significant other, when you set those expectations, like I think of it when we're going through the inspection process, it is like the most miserable time of the transaction for everyone involved. Like, what am I going to find? Will they fix it? Well, whether you're the seller or the buyer. And setting those expectations that, look, every house has something. We're going to find something. Yeah. There's going to be a long list of things. What we need to dig into is what's important to you. And there's always a solution. They want to sell, you want to buy. You want to buy, they want to sell. Yeah. It's like everything is solution based, but the more that we can set that expectation for what potentially might be in front of us, it's like you've prepped them. You've given them that first step, that first stepping stone.
Yeah.
And then the blows are so much less.
Did I tell you that I had a 95-page inspection report on the house that I'm in right now?
No.
So anybody listening to this podcast, like I'm telling you, yes, that's a tough time for everybody. But I can tell you that I've probably got it beat, and I still bought the house at 95 pages of an inspection report. So it's going to be okay.
It's always okay.
It's always okay. All right. Anything else we need to talk about to let the listeners out there know who Debbe Crawford is?
Wow. I don't know. I think, I'm just a lover of people, a lover of life, I really am. And I have, at least I like to think I have such a heart to serve, and in every aspect, whether it's through community or through transaction or through their life. And I think the other thing too is that, when the transaction is over, whether you like it or not, we're not done. I'm going to hunt you down. We're going to stay in contact. We're going to stay in communication,
It's funny too. I think this is something that the listeners need to hear. You are an excellent resource. And what happens between you and I as good friends really is that we have these very broken conversations because we're both super busy. And so we like text 3 to 4 words to each other. We answer each other. There's no emotion in it. We're like, hey, who do you know that installs wallpaper? And I don't get you're going to love this guy. There's no chit chat. It's the contact information. It gets sent over to me. He's in my house installing wallpaper today.
I love it.
I love it. Like best of the best, but you are such a good fountain of information. And so I go to you a lot to ask really kind of weird questions. So I think your listeners should know that good wallpaper installers.
That's right. And you as well. You know what I mean? I appreciate you so much. And it's so funny because I think, and I'm sure you can relate to this, but I have these conversations actually with my team all the time that, sometimes I'm taken as short or, to the point, and I'm like, but sometimes those things are needed. And I love that I can just go to you and be like, this forward question and just get an answer and like move on. Nobody's taking, you know what I mean? You get it, you understand it,
Yeah.
and you're always helping me get to that next step. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like you can do powerful things with small nuggets,
Right.
And I really, really appreciate it about you. I appreciate it about Keller Williams. I mean, people ask me all the time, how do you think you got so successful so quickly? I said, I mean, there's so much information here. There's so many classes.
Too much sometimes, yeah.
There is. And you know what, if you dive into it, I had some girls tell me one time, they were like, I don't want to go to team meeting. It's just a waste of time. It's sitting there for an hour. And I'm like, I want you to go to team meeting for the next 4 weeks and tell me that you don't bring something back out of that meeting every single time.
Yeah.
Now, are you going to sit there and just be like glued to it for 60 minutes? Probably not.
No.
But if you take one thing from it, one thing that can better your business or better your personal life, was it not worth it?
Yeah.
It is. It
A
always
lot of people don't know how to take what they learned and credit it back to the person that actually got them there. I'm a very big proponent of saying, no, I really wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Cody Gibson. He really gave me my next opportunities. He gave me ways to have that passive income, things like that. But Cody is a byproduct of Keller Williams, which also was my influence, and I agree 100%. And I think, just for people out there, it's like, who helped me get in front of this person? Why does my bathroom look so beautiful? Because Debbe Crawford answered me at 6 a.m. who the wallpaper person was. Like, I don't know. I like to give credit to others too. All right. Did you have a question for me?
I do. I think you do a lot of speaking, right? And you're always moving forward. You're always bettering yourself. You're always, from this last year of 2021, what do you think that or 2020, I'm sorry, what do you think that you implemented in your life that kept you moving, that kept you positive, that kept you moving in the right direction during?
Food. Does that count? Food. The refrigerator, snacks. Just snacks on snacks on snacks.
I just feel like I can't remember. There were countless times where I was like, I would hate to be Leanne today. I would hate to be Leanne today.
Well, just because it's a lot. Like, being a leader inside a pandemic is weird. First of
totally.
all, sorry for everybody.
It can be difficult outside of a pandemic, let alone inside of it. I can't imagine the negativity that you were taking on and you know what I mean? The constant change.
It was a lot. Okay, so yeah, it is a lot of change. Like, even it's funny because our agent leadership council, my staff said, let's sign up people let's get people signed up. And I was like, wait, we've never been in a pandemic before where we've done this online. So we actually have to discuss it. So everything goes slower and there's more work than there ever has been. And I'm not joking, snacks on snacks really was like my theme. I swear to God, I like ate everything in 2020 so that I could just be happy and get the boost of dopamine in my brain when I'm eating like some snackety snack. I don't know. But you know what's funny is I really have stayed connected with people. I actually spring into action in emergencies for some reason. I don't know what part of me, maybe it's the part where I really do desire to help people every single day. It's been a challenge for sure. And the one thing that I focused on in 2020 that I loved was I read books that were not business related. I read more.
What was your favorite one?
Well, the one that I just got done reading, I just talked about it on another podcast, was called The Midnight Library. And I've focused more on my own personal self and understanding my journey and understanding who I am at the core, and stopped needing to be everything to everybody else during this time, and just said, I will do the very best I can for that person. And I can't solve what they're going through right now. I can give them resources. I can be another voice, and I've got to get my mind out of, this is how business is done. This is how people are done during a pandemic. And we've got to talk about humans. And so I just got really human connected. And I realized, what type of humans weren't willing to come to the table at 100%, like you and I talked about. How many people had excuses? I love when I talk to people and they're like, well, I haven't been able to do business because of the pandemic. I'm like, have you met Debbe Crawford? Like, I literally want to what? And so, so I know it's just there, but that's also where they're at right now. And they might be going through other things. So that was my piece of saying, I don't need more business books today after 10 years of being at Keller Williams. I need more human books.
Right.
And I'm a big avid reader. I try to read a couple books a month, as you know. And so, yeah, I actually just got Of Mice and Men. Do you remember that old? I got that original publication. I'm into super old books that are classic. So anyway, yeah.
I love it. Good.
Yes.
I love it.
All right. Well, Debbe, thank you so much. You're amazing. I love getting to know you today. Love that our agents and the population of your home buyers and sellers out there got to know you a little bit deeper. So everybody go buy and sell your houses with Miss Debbe Crawford. Thanks for joining us today on Getting to Know Your Realtor. This episode was brought to you by Lifeline for Hope. Be sure to catch us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, and be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much again for joining us today. Have a great day.